Hello and welcome to Nigeria Unfiltered, the platform where we examine the issues shaping our nation through honest, balanced, and thought-provoking conversations. I'm your host, Olabode Roland. Nigeria stands at a defining moment. Across the country, citizens are demanding better governance, stronger institutions, accountable leadership, and a political system that truly reflects the aspiration of the people. As preparations for the next electoral cycle gather momentum, questions about representation, political parties, and the future of our democracy have never been more important. Today's conversation is titled The State of Nigeria, Governance, Politics, and the Road Ahead. Joining us is Honorable Nelson Apochi, a politician and House of Representatives aspirant on the platform of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. We'll discuss the state of governance in Nigeria, the evolving political landscape, the vision of the NDC, his decision to seek elective office, and what he believes should be done to move the country forward. Honorable Nelson Apochi, thank you for joining us on Nigeria Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland, for having me.
We'll take a short break, and when we're back, we'll jump straight into the conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Nigeria Unfiltered. We're joined by Honorable Nelson Apochi. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
Now let's jump into the conversation. Well, looking at your party, NDC, there has been reports of a lot of internal crisis, right? And it's important that we put a spotlight on it because we have, persons that are coming to represent constituencies and all in that regard. How can we determine or rather differentiate that NDC is just not another party like the APC or the PDP that's just coming to be another savior for Nigerians?
All right. So if you look at the trajectory of the issues in NDC, you will understand that one, the party is young, and it will definitely have course correcting issues, like things that will come up and you will course correct in that regard. But there are also a manufactured problem that is also occurring within the party. But there are things that stands out in the NDC. NDC is built on the idea of service, and it's one of the few parties in Nigeria that is building an institution, not a special purpose vehicle for anybody. It's building an institution, and all of the crises that we have had or that that have come up, the reason why most of them have been dealt with is because the party is building institutions, things that can outlive somebody, that can outlive even a person. And
what are the major things that have come up and have been dealt with?
I mean, if you look at firstly, the court cases, for example, and to show you how organized and structured the party is, that most of the issues that have been thrown at us have been dealt with decisively using the laws of the land. Not I'm twisting anybody and all of that. And even the recent one that came up, every person, even the blind, can see that it was an orchestration, but we didn't respond through blackmail or anything. We responded the following Monday through the laws of the land. So NDC believes in Nigeria at first. We believe in the laws of the country. We believe that Nigeria deserves better, but that cannot come with selfishness. It comes with selflessness and service, and it is embodied in the kind of candidates that are filling up positions, starting from our presidential candidate, His Excellency Peter Obi. The selflessness, to the vice president. So it is embodied not just on paper, but in the kind of people that are passing through the process of becoming candidates in the NDC.
Well, the type of people that are passing through the process I mentioned. In fact, looking at Peter Obi, he was given the presidential ticket alongside Kwankwaso, right? And the number of his loyalists that came to the party with him, I mean, you can also say you're part of that number, like Aisha Yusufu, Randy Peters, but unfortunately they weren't given a ticket. How does that compare to, is that a form of affront that we use Peter Obi to get the name to really push this party and then his loyalists are sidelined?
You use the word given. That the whole electoral process is actually a contest, right? And there are laid down criteria on how this thing happens, right? Nobody is given anything. The reason why we're running is because we need to battle for the soul of the nation. So there are issues, right, that came up during the primaries and all of that, but they were not outrightly disenfranchised. There are issues that came up, issues of suitability, issues of capacity, issues like that. Many deciding factor that goes into selecting a candidate. Politics is local, like I said. They are in my constituency, for example. If you want to give someone put someone on the ballot, you have to ensure that he's from the right zone, that he understands the terrain. Probably I've visited the 21 council wards, understand how politics is played in that place, and that person commands the local respect that can win elections. So there are different things that goes into putting someone on the ballot. It's not just because you came with someone, but there are loyalists that came with His Excellency, and quite well so. Most of them are also, looking forward of ensuring that he becomes the president of this country, not just making sure that they jump on the wagon ball. So there are many internal issues, conversations that have happened. Of course, on social media, people take things at face value, but there are things that lead to a certain decision of certain people being on the ballot. And most of those things were considered in the process of the NDC primary election or the consensus process that led to people, becoming the candidates in their constituencies.
Well, that's interesting to note that across board, none of these candidates were up to the standard, like you mentioned.
No. I think that's a very sweeping statement. I will say that at the moment, we actually do not have from any states, confirmed candidates of the NDC, any list published publicly. There are nominations forms that have been given at cross-board, and when the names are uploaded, which is currently ongoing as we speak, in August, INEC will officially publish the names of the people that have been nominated by the party to run on its platform. Then we can make clear justifications of how many Peter Obi loyalists bought the expression of interest form and how many of them made it to the ballot. If we make that comparison using numbers, we can then say, okay, none of them made it to the ballot. But you are talking about prominent people. There are also silent people that came across board from different regions in the nation that will make it to the ballot. So we can't make that kind of assumptions at the moment.
Well, I would look forward to that, in fact, and it's important that we have these conversations because we want to know, okay, what exactly is being put on the table. You mentioned a list. There have been reports of a fake list that was being uploaded where your party chairman had to come and clarify that, okay, this is a fake list. How do we have such information? Would you say that's like a sabotage, or what exactly is going on
there? Even the APC have lists. I mean, the people have been, doing all sorts of things. But there's a due process, right? No political party have officially published any list. In fact, the INEC could do that in August. But what we're doing now is going through the process, uploading those names to the INEC portal, and it's a very tedious process. Imagine the entire nation, having 1,000, 2,000 candidates, and you have to do that, a very systematic way of uploading that. It takes time, and when they do that, there'll be verification. There will still also be rooms for replacements in case of eventualities that will happen along the way. But this is the entire, democratic process, political process that leads to an election, and it's usually not very convenient. I must say, it's difficult, even for the people participating, because it takes a lot of conversations, a lot of agreement and disagreement, of course. And in every family, in every process, you will have that, and your ability to negotiate yourself to the table sometimes, and not just being given, is also very, very important.
it is important. And I want to confirm something from you, in fact. The NDC has not been, up for up to a year, I would say, right? And for the electoral process, it's important that, the citizens have knowledge as to what the party is prior or long prior before the election process. You are running or contesting against an APC incumbent in an APC governorship state. With that power of incumbency, how can you make a stand in these upcoming elections? And even looking at it, NDC in general.
So this election is not going to be about the candidates alone. It's going to be about the people. And like I said, I gave you some numbers about my people just now. Let's say this is a survival. This election is a survival. It's not because we hate the APC, but the APC have not been able to solve our problem. For example, in my constituency, the governor have not been able to visit my people, even when there are attacks. It shows that the justice system is, it's not a balanced scale in Nigeria. It means that some people are more, like the animal kingdom. So some animals are more, more important than the others. So the governor have not visited. They've never been a relief material. They've never been any way to cushion, the hardship that this insecurity have caused on our people. So our people will not vote because of the incumbency. They will vote because they need to survive. And like I said, some of these communities like Mogbo, Ikwele, Ijima 1, Ijima 2, there are grasses growing in people's houses now because they've not lived there for more than a year. So that kind of person going to the polling unit is not going because of anything. He's going because he needs to survive. And our ancestry, our history, our people, our life is tied to our land. When we are disenfranchised of our land, we just exist in a limbo. So the 2027 election is about survival of our people. It's about their health care. It's about development. So they will make decisions based on that. And as NDC, we are going to go to every nook and cranny. We're going to see these people. And some of us have been on ground for so long. We've been there serving with the people. We've been there in their pains. When the last attack happened in March or April, I was in the community. I took media people there because we know that our voices are not being heard. Nobody is telling our stories. So we went there with the media to ensure that our voices are heard nationally. And I went on TV speaking about it because these are the issues. We don't want handouts. We are hard-working people. We need our lands back to go back to our farms so that we can provide for ourselves and our family. So the 2027 election is about our survival. It's not about anything. We need to survive first. Then we can forge a way forward.
Well, I would agree with you. In fact, the upcoming election is one where everyone needs to put their hands on deck and vote for who they believe is the right person. But looking back at the previous elections, would you also say that was based on survival? But they decided to vote the current people that are there.
So there are many issues in their electoral process, and it's almost like an arc, right? So we start with this whole convoluted process of primary elections, trying to get people off the ballot and all of that. Then you go to the main election, and then there are huge cases of disenfranchisement, and 2023 is not very far. You saw what happened in many states where people were not allowed to vote, or sometimes people were allowed to vote, beaten and all of those kind of things. But we cannot say categorically that these people, my people for example, voted for the then government. You cannot say categorically that. In fact, the incumbent was in PDP. He won the elections under PDP and then moved to APC, right? And he was the only PDP House of Representative member from the state, right? And they brought him to APC, so we're completely an APC state now. So just to help you understand that the mindset of our people have always been, survival, and they believe that sending the right person there, to represent them, we at least let their voice be heard, and solutions can then come afterwards. So people will vote to the side of survival, to the person and the people that they believe we help them to go back to their lives and their livelihood and solve the plaguing security issues in our communities.
Very importantly, in fact, many Nigerians have lost hope in the ballot, seeing how a lot of them came out en masse last elections, and like you mentioned, there were a series of issues, disenfranchisement, and you would call it rigging in a vast populace. How can you convince the average Nigerian to come out and vote, even with the awareness that this is the current incumbency, and it will almost seem like there is an expectation for them to come back? How do you convince them that yes, they should come out and vote?
The design of the psychology behind rigging and behind fear is the fact that people make you afraid so that the things that you would normally do, you would not do. And then let me give you an example. If 100 people register in a particular ward to vote, and out of fear, only the loyalists of the party in power, 20 of them go out to vote, who do you think decided the election? Is the 80 that didn't come out to vote that decided the election, not the 20 that came out to vote. Because if the 80 that didn't come out to vote decide to come out, regardless of the fear, to take a stand, to make their voice heard, there will be a difference. The scale will tilt, perhaps in their favor. So the psychology behind the mischievous political system is the fact that we create so much fear in the minds of people, and then many people will say, "Oh, I've lost hope in the system." But this is the only country we have. We have to keep trying. There are many people that would have left this country, but they somehow believe that, by one stroke of luck, that something will happen and they can go back and we can have a system that works. So my plea is that 2027 is an opportunity to try again. And not voting is actually voting. Whether you go out to vote or not, you're making a decision. Indecision as a word is actually a decision. So in a place where there are 100 voters and only 20 decide to show up, the 20 didn't decide who the winner is. The 80 did. So the idea is to encourage as many people to go out to vote. Brave it out. Where there are obstacles, come out together as a group. But we cannot be afraid, because the things that we fear have already come upon us. So for my people, for example, insecurity is upon us. There's nothing to fear anymore. Well, if you've been killed from your homes, 10 people have been killed in your community over insecurity, in a single day, what would you then fear on election day? So the things that we fear the most have come upon us. There's nothing more to fear. So people should go out, make a stand. And that is the only way that you can exercise your franchise. That's the only way that you can tell if your vote counted or not, if you actually voted.
If you actually vote. And it's important that everyone has to vote. Everyone comes out on the election day and votes for the candidates of their choice. You are running for House of Rep for your constituency on the NDC. Run us through your decision to choose NDC. I would ask this framing. Are you rallying with Peter Obi, or is this a lone decision to choose NDC to run under?
All right. Thank you very much, Roland. I think I made my decisions a long time ago to run for office. In 2023, I was one of the people that are heavily invested in the Labour Party as a party, and because Peter Obi was running. Afterwards, I stayed with the party even all through the turbulence. I was part of the people that joined ADC at some point when the coalition started. But with local politics also come with local problems. So there are issues at my constituency, issue of transparency, and also with the issue that the ADC was facing at the time, nationally. I decided to seek, another alternative even before His Excellency Peter Obi decided to leave the coalition. I had various options, but with the Peter Obi's move to NDC, I decided to join, the NDC, with consultation, of course, with my people at home, and a number of people decided to go with me. So it's both my decision and also with the direction that the country was going, and having plurality in our democracy is also very important. So I decided to join the NDC.
So if I got you clearly, you're joining, out of a number of influences. I would also say Peter Obi is part of them. Now, looking into your constituency, there's been a history of insecurity around your area. I would ask, what is the current, or rather, what has the current, the person you're contesting against, what has it done so far, and how do you plan to come in and do something differently?
All right. Before I say what he has done, but I'll tell you the state of the constituency at the moment. At the moment, we have over 40 communities completely deserted. When I say deserted, it means that there are no people. And as you know, historically, our people are agrarian in culture, so they farm. And before now, if you go to the constituency, you have truckloads of goods going out in the dry season, and in the rainy season, people go back to their homes. People travel all the way back to come and farm. So there are more than 40 communities that are currently displaced. There's a large number of people that are living outside the community, living in the local government headquarters, and also living outside of their constituency. So it's a large-scale humanitarian crisis. To show you what has not been done, it's that there's never been a NEMA or SEMA intervention. They've never, brought any form of relief materials to these thousands of people that are displaced across the constituency. There are very few security personnel covering this large expanse of land, that we currently have. There's no outreach when our people are killed. From January to this time, there have been more than 30 people that have been killed, and the largest was 10 in a single day in Idiko, in Ankpali. So the situation is even less than is reported. And it has never been mentioned on the floor of the House, the scale of this problem, the impact that it has had on our people, from economic impact, like I stated, people can no longer farm, health impact, no doctor will be agreed to be posted into such environment, core members no longer go there. And so the hit that it has had on our education, on our economy, and so the crisis is a complete disaster on our people. So people have lost their lives, their livelihood, and they are looking forward to where the next meal will come from.
So what are the things that you do differently going into that seat?
So security issues are the first job of every government, is to protect lives and property. But as a representative, one of your primary job is providing representation. That means as a lone voice in Abuja, you represent the ambition, the dreams, the fears, the insecurity, as it were, of 300,000, 500,000 people that are from your constituency. So one of the first things you have to do is to actually present their case at the floor of the House. I was at the National Assembly, I think a month ago, and there was an attack somewhere, I think in Borno State, and the representative actually presented the case and then asked for 1 minute prayer and then requested for intervention. And that's how it's done. The first thing you have to do is to, first of all, ensure that the voices of this number of people are heard, because you represent them. You are one face that if they see a power too. So first of all, that's representation. The next thing is the problem that we have in Nigeria is a problem of leadership. And I put it this way because we practice something that I personally call the pass my neighbor style of leadership. So the House of Assembly member, we occupy very small space, snap on social media, the same with the local government chairman, the House of Reps. There is no collaboration that currently exists, because security issues is solved with synergy. And we have to have a security plan, even as a constituency, because without that, you cannot measure whether you've made progress or not. And in that plan, you will decide, what do the people want? Do we need more deployment of security personnel to this place? Do we need more peace and conflict resolution? Do we need more So when you have all of that and the people are aware and you make progress along any of those lines, you can then come back to your constituency and they can agree with you that you promised that a security outpost will be established in this place and that place. You have done one of it. So that goes into how you are rated as a leader, and currently that's not being done. So just to recap, so first is representation, and the next thing is actually coordinating. Because as the House of Representative member, you're the highest political office holder in the constituency. So you should be able to bring people together, to put heads together, harness the already existing capital, human capital that you have, which is retired police officers. Let them guide you on what to do, and you have a concrete security plan that you can come back to the House and present and make demands on the government so that they can do something about the plight of your people.
Well, so are you saying that the current representatives of your constituency have failed in their duties?
I currently don't see that happening in any shape or form. And I think that what has happened is that as soon as the elections ended in 2023, most people, including the current representative, were focused on the 2027 election. So it wasn't about governance, it was about elections. So everybody wanted to see how they secure a party ticket, how they get delegates, who, and all of that. So that's what's happening. And right now, it's even worse because nobody's speaking about that. Everybody wants to see how they'll be on the ballot in 2027.
Let us take a short break, and when we're back, we'll jump into the conversation. Welcome back to Nigeria Unfiltered. It's been quite a conversation with Honorable Nelson. Now, let's jump into women in politics. Right, you are on the NDC rather. Tell me about the space and the inclusion of women in that political party.
Well, anyway, so women in politics, it's a big debate in Nigeria, and I think it's actually a process. We have women participating at various levels. People that actually picked up the nomination form that I'm aware of, within NDC. And I also see that happening across other political parties. But one thing we always have to acknowledge is that the Nigerian political system is rigged. It requires a lot of resources, a lot of commitment, and sometimes it's very challenging for people that actually have a life outside to, walk into that space and also be efficient. So we need institutions like the ones we're building in NDC that gives people room for expression, women, people with disability, to actually run for office, lowering the bar sometimes, because it requires a lot of finances, from consultation, purchasing of your forms, and actually doing what is required within the process. So these are things that we need to look at, and these are things that NDC, for example, have particularly paying attention to. For this political season, when we finalize on who's running, we can then measure in percentage how many women are vying for offices, and then these conversations can be deepened as we continue on the journey, deepening our political process and seeing how many more women can come into power. But there's a back end to it, and that's the capacity to equipping women and carrying women along so that people are part of the system first, then they can see how the system works, and then they can aspire to getting into office. And that's what I believe that most people that get elected into office should pay attention to, getting women into that space where they actually have a voice, they make decisions, and people that have capacity to deliver at various levels.
Importantly. Now let us jump into rapid fire questions. This is the segment where I ask very short questions, and you answer with a word or two, just a yes or no, or something within that line. Now, first question. One word to describe Nigeria today.
Chaotic.
One institution that needs urgent reform.
I don't know. political space, and the police.
One policy you would introduce immediately.
I mean, securing communities. There we are around that. Okay.
One Nigerian leader you admire and why, in one sentence.
Peter Obi, humility.
And finally, complete this sentence. Nigeria can become a great nation if
we all build our communities.
If we all build our communities. Honorable Nelson, thank you for sharing your thoughts and perspectives on governance, politics, representation, and the future of Nigeria. Now, whether you agree with our guests or hold a different opinion, one thing remains clear. The future of our democracy depends on informed citizens, constructive dialogue, and leaders who are committed to serving the people. To our viewers, thank you for watching Nigeria Unfiltered. We encourage you to stay engaged, ask questions, hold leaders accountable, and actively participate in shaping the Nigeria we all desire. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms for more insightful conversations that matter. Until next time, I'm Olabode Roland, and this has been Nigeria Unfiltered. Stay tuned.